The episode starts off with Michael sneaking on top of the prison's rooftop. He hides from the helicopter that's flying overhead. He takes off the vent cover and crawls in to find a way to save Sarah. The yard is being filled by police cars and the National Guard arriving in military vehicles. The warden approaches Officer Mack and asks him if the governor has said anything yet. He hasn't. We then see one of John's men call out to the warden and the guards. Warden Pope gets a loudspeaker and asks what's happening. The prisoner says they have demands such as getting the AC back on and that they have a hostage, Officer Bob. John then tells him to tell that they also have the Dr. Sarah as a hostage. Warden gets angry and asks how that happened, since the medical wing was closed off from the rest of the prison. A captain of the National Guard then tells the warden he has some updates for him. We then see Sarah banging on the window of the medical bay, screaming for help from the outside. But no one can hear her. We then Turk lurking Lincoln away from the general population in the prison. Lincoln follows him and loses him. Turk then ambushes him and starts strangling him. Lincoln pushes him against a hard surface and elbows him, which breaks him free from Turk's grip. We see riots continuing in cell block. We see T-Bag taking the guard's boots and belt. Sucre tells him that he won't use it. T-Bag says he will and asks if he has a problem. The guard tells them he has no problem and that he swears he won't tell anyone about the prison escape. Sucre moves the toilet and gets ready to leave the cell. Bob tells him not to leave as he's scared being around T-Bag. T-Bag grabs a sheet and covers the cell with it so no one would see the hole in the wall. He then grabs Bob and tells him to move the toilet over to cover the hole. T-Bag looks at him seductively. We then see Michael crawling through the prison's vent system, trying to locate Sarah. We then see Nick and Veronica on a flight to Washington, D.C. They quietly discuss who could have made the call to the police on the night Lincoln was framed. We see the inmates continuing to bang on the glass to try to get to Sarah in the medical bay. Sarah gets up and bangs on the window to get someone's attention, but to no avail, no one hears her. Michael continues to crawl through the vent system, trying to locate Sarah. He opens a cover and notices there's a pipe he can cling on to since the vent ends there. Michael carries himself across the pipe to get to the other side. We then see a police cruiser escort the governor's motorcade. They make their way into the prison yard with reporters lining up to make a story of the prison riot. The motorcade arrives in the middle of the yard, and Governor Tancredi comes out. He asks the warden where his daughter is. Warden Pope and Captain Bellick stay quiet. We then see T-Bag looking at Bob's wallet and his driver's license, and we see T-Bag tied his wrist to the bunk. T-Bag continues to dig through his wallet and sees a picture of his daughter. T-Bag taunts Bob by saying his daughter didn't make it home after prom, since she was out with her boyfriend all night long. He then says how she probably had to throw away the prom dress the next morning but is stopped by John. T-Bag says he's only talking about women with the guard. John grabs T-Bag and tells him he is not allowed to hurt that guard. The guard thanks John. T-Bag leaves the cell and gets at an inmate's face before walking away. John then peeks over behind the toilet. We then see an inmate hit the guard as another inmate decides to simply smoke Sarah out of the room with fire. They light a phone book on fire as Sarah screams for help. A prisoner drops it in the room, but Sarah reacts quickly by stomping on it and covers it with a trash bin. A prisoner manages to grab Sarah by her ponytail and tells her it won't hurt if she makes it easy, then licks her ear. She then stabs the prisoner's arm with a glass shank. Sarah runs from the door. Michael is in the ceiling and offers her his hand. Sarah sees no other way out and grabs Michael's hand and gets into the ceiling. Michael then tells her she has to follow him to safety, he'll lead the way. Sarah agrees. The prisoners notice that she's not in the room. One of them realizes she escaped through the ceiling. We then see Nick and Veronica arrive at Washington, D.C. They notice Fox River State Penitentiary is on the news due to the riot inside. We see LJ watching the same news station. His mother notices that it's the prison his father is in, so she turns off the TV and says they have to go. She then explains to LJ that his stepdad gets very uncomfortable when Lincoln gets brought up, as he's LJ's real father. LJ gets angry, but his stepdad tells him to leave him out of it. He gets up and tells him he left him out of it the day he met him. They get into a scrap, and he slaps LJ to the floor. LJ gets up. His mother tells him to go to his room. We then see Turk hiding from Lincoln, waiting to ambush him again as Lincoln wanders through the boiler room. He sees Turk behind him and asks him why he's doing this. He doesn't respond and hits Lincoln with a pipe. He tries to hit him again, but Lincoln overpowers him and pushes him over the ledge. He makes his way down and asks him why he's doing this and who sent him. Turk doesn't answer him. Lincoln leaves him there as he's about to die. We then see Sucre drilling into the holes of the wall. John approaches him but startles him. John asks him what he's doing. Sucre tells him it's Hooker's law. If he pokes the right holes into something strong, it gets weak. John tells him that's true. We see Michael and Sarah making their way through the ceiling. Beneath them, the inmates are trying to find Sarah, knowing she's in the ceiling. Sarah tells him she needs to rest, so they sit down for a minute. Sarah asks him why Michael's there. He tells her he knew she needed help, so he went to find her. She asked him how he knew his way around. He lies to her and tells her he worked up there during his PI assignments cleaning out toxic mold. He lied to her because he didn't want her to know he helped design the prison back in the day and that he had the blueprints of it tattooed on his body. They start moving again and the inmates hear them. Michael notices one of the prisoners is slowly moving the tile of the ceiling. The inmate peeks his head through the ceiling but Michael kicks him in the face, which causes the inmate to fall. The other inmates get angry and start shoving the broom through the ceiling tiles, trying to find Sarah. We then see the warden speaking with the governor in the yard. The governor is angry. The warden explains to him they're negotiating with the prisoners. The governor is against that and says he doesn't care if a massacre has to take place, he just wants his daughter to get taken out of there. The captain of the National Guard approaches the governor. The governor tells him he's going inside. The captain lets his men know. Next, Michael is making his way down to the floor from the ceiling. He then catches Sarah when she makes her way down. They look at each other until a prisoner finds them and asks Michael if he planned on keeping her to himself. He then goes after Sarah but Michael stops him and starts choking him out. Another inmate finds them and tries to stop Michael. But Sarah kicks him in the right knee. Sarah knew the prisoner's right knee had 3 screws in it, so she dislocated them by stomping it. The prisoner falls, screaming in pain. Michael gets up after the other inmate passes out and they run away. Next, we see the National Guard on the roof of the prison, slowly making their way inside and placing snipers. Bellick sees it and tells the governor it was a good idea. The governor thanks him. Bellick tells him these prisoners don't mess around and that the guards should get tough. He then walks away. We see Sucre and John. John takes the egg beater and tells him demolition runs in his family. He then starts screwing into the wall, telling him he needs to apply the right amount of pressure. The power in the prison then gets shut down. We then see T-Bag looking at himself through the mirror, saying he used to have acne. He then looks at Bob's daughter and says she looks like the type of girl that used to make fun of him when he was younger. He then says he'll kill him before escaping prison and he'll take his daughter to prom. He then looks at Bob while holding the picture with his teeth. We then see the army captain and the sniper team getting into position. The warden asks him if they found Sarah yet, but he says they haven't. The governor then tells Warden Pope that he should listen to Captain Bellick. He then tells him he better pray they get Sarah back in one piece. The warden excuses himself to find Bellick. Michael and Sarah run through the prison's storage area to the nearest exit. John slowly removes the egg beater from the wall and tells him they're finally through. John then grabs a piece of metal pipe and tells Sucre she's all his. Sucre starts banging at the wall. The wall falls apart easily due to the holes that were carefully placed. John and Sucre both look through the hole and laugh, as they're one step closer to freedom. Michael and Sarah find the exit. Behind them, the other prisoners are looking for them. The snipers get into position and see Michael. Michael tells Sarah he'll go back to cell once Sarah leaves. Sarah notices the laser dot on Michael. Michael sees the laser and tells Sarah she has to go. She says if she does then they will fire at him. Michael tells her he'll drop to the floor once she exits the door, but she warns him that they're sharpshooters and that they won't miss. The prisoners finally find them, so Michael pushes her out the door and gets out of the way as the sniper fires, striking one of the inmates dead. The rest of the sharpshooters start firing at them. Sarah gets escorted by prison guards. We then see Nix and Veronica waiting for a friend in a garage. They see he arrives. He gets out of the van and approaches Nick and Veronica. He hands them a card with a number, claiming that's the number that was used to call the cops on Lincoln. He then says the number comes from a pay phone. We then see Nick and Veronica at the pay phone that was used. Nick notices a building closest to the pay phone is empty. He approaches the guard to ask him what used to be in the building. It used to be an eco company that Terrence Stedman used to own. The pay phone then starts ringing. Veronica answers it. A man is on the other end and addresses Veronica by her name and asks her if Lincoln Burrows is really worth it. Nick then grabs the phone and asks who it is. The man on the other end addresses Nick by his name and tells him as of now, him and Veronica are dead, and hangs up. At the prison, all the prisoners are trying to find their way back to their cells. Lincoln gets to Michael's cell and sees T-Bag is in there, so he attacks him. T-Bag tells him he didn't touch the guard at all. Lincoln then sees Sucre crawling out as T-Bag tells him he's in on the escape too. Lincoln sees John crawling out as well, so he grabs Sucre and asks him why he took John down there. Sucre tells him he didn't and that John went down there by himself. Lincoln then asks him where Michael is. Sucre doesn't answer, so he runs off to look for him. Michael finds his way back into the cell block and sees the guards are getting ready to go inside. Lincoln finds him and they hug it out. Sarah is then seen being escorted by the guards. The paramedics take her. The warden approaches Bellick and tells him if he badmouths him to one of his superiors again, there will be serious consequences. He then asks if he's clear. Being very nervous, Bellick tells him yes. The governor then sees Sarah and hugs her. The guards then make their way inside the cell block as Michael and Lincoln make their way back to the cell. Michael then says to get everyone out of the cell, especially the guard. T-Bag unties his wrists as he says he'll take care of him himself. Michael tells him not to kill him, but T-Bag says they don't need him anymore. They get into a scrap, so Lincoln pushes T-Bag away and grabs Bob. Lincoln tells Bob to keep his mouth shut and turn left. John then stops Bob and tells him if there's a problem, he knows where to find him since he's keeping his license. They kick him out of the cell. John tells T-Bag to forget about it. T-Bag hides in a different cell, waiting for John to pass. He then turns around to find Bob. He grabs him, shanks him multiple times, then tosses him over the railing. Michael screams no. Bob falls to the floor in front of Charles. Bob slowly dies on the floor. T-Bag then walks past Michael and tells him he did it for the team. Michael gets sad about it. Next, Sarah is in an ambulance and sees Ron, who is the director of prison industries. She asks him why he assigned prisoners to remove toxic mold from the prison. Ron doesn't know what she's talking about and says he never assigned prisoners to do that, making Sarah realize that Michael lied to her. Michael is seen in his cell, thinking of when T-Bag murdered Bob.